let's get into the giant mailbag.
What crazy thing did Citi do this week?
It's time for Mattress Running the Numbers. Ready for the main event?
The main event.
Frequent Miler on the air starts now. Today's main event, our favorite Capital One Sweet Spot Awards.
That's right. We got lots of favorites out there. We're going to play favorites today and talk about all of our favorite Sweet Spot Awards.
Right. With everybody all excited about the new Venture X card, everybody's going to be accumulating lots of Venture X miles, Capital One miles. And so let's talk about what can we do with them? We've got some really, really nice things that you can do with them. So we will get into that. First, we do have our giant mailbag. Let's see here.
Always love to see what the people have to say. So drag it out, pull up the giant mail.
This comes from Apple Podcast Reviews.
Oh, good. I don't ever read the Apple Podcast Reviews, so I always get excited when you do one of these.
Right. This one is from FM Fan. And so you can guess already, this is probably going to be a positive review.
I like
right?
it. I like this person.
FM Fan says, best points, miles podcast out there. I found the FM podcast about 2 months ago and listened to this one along with a few others. And this has been by far the best one.
Well, thank you, FM Fan. Oh, yeah. We're still going.
Not done.
We're still going. Okay,
still
all right,
going.
Keep going.
The candor they talk through about maximizing miles, MS techniques, which is manufacturing spend techniques, and moves and shakes in the market have taught me as much in the last few months as I've learned in the last few years on my own. I also appreciate that they're not afraid to mention other sites that may have different strategies. And he gives an example of when we talked about Disney hacks and referred people to some other sites. He says, keep the episodes coming, Greg and Nick. There you go.
Well, thank you. We will. We'll keep them coming and keep listening. So thank you very much.
Please
do. Yeah, that's great. It's always good to
keep telling your friends.
Yeah, tell everybody you know. Tell them all. Listen to Nick and
right.
Nick and Greg on Frequent Miler on the air. So great mail there. All right, so that brings us to what crazy thing did Hyatt do this week?
Yeah, what did Hyatt do this week?
Well, Hyatt didn't. Well, or what didn't Hyatt do? I guess they didn't take the right certificate. So if you have multiple Hyatt free night certificates in your account, like let's say you've done 60 nights this year, or gotten credit for 60 nights this year in order to get globalist status with all the milestone benefits, you'll have earned a category 1 to 4 free night when you hit 30 nights, and then a category 1 to 7 free night when you've hit 60 nights. So there's a lot of globalists in that kind of a situation. So you've got 2 different free night certificates in your account. Now, let's say you want to go and book yourself a category 4 hotel that ordinarily costs 15,000 points. Which certificate would you want to use? Of course,
obviously.
The category 1 to 4, right? That's the one you'd want to use because that's the one that, caps out at category 4. You'd want to save that 1 to 7 for a higher category property. And it would be really nice if Hyatt gave you the option to pick which of those 2 certificates you would like to use when you're making a reservation. But unfortunately, they don't. And they just take one of them. And it's not always the one you want them to take. So somebody reached out to let me know that he'd run into this situation and he didn't realize that they took the category 1 to 7 for his category 4 stay until after the stay was completed. He went to presumably use the 1 to 7 certificate and it was just gone. So he reached out to Hyatt and said, whoa, hang on. I had a category 4 stay. I wanted to use the category 1 to 4 certificate. And Hyatt said, too bad, so sad. We can give you 10,000 points, which is a pretty poor resolution. Some readers actually commented that got better resolutions on the same problem. But I mean, come on, Hyatt. I know everybody says there's no IT in Hyatt. I know it's been a running joke for years, but come on, it's time to get with the program, Hyatt. You got to make that easier.
Right. So Rita wrote in with a good tip, right? That you could just book a stay for as far out as you can see to use your category 1 to 7 certificate and plan on canceling that later to get the certificate back, and that'll prevent Hyatt from accidentally using your category 1 to 4. The risk there is you might forget all about it. So set yourself some kind of reminder so that you don't forget about that and you actually use it before it expires.
The other similar problem when you mentioned before it expires is that you might have a certificate from credit card spend and a certificate from the 30-night milestone, and they may have different expiration dates. And once again, you would think that Hyatt would naturally take the one that's expiring soonest first, but of course, you would think wrong, because
Really?
that's
Really?
not necessarily. Yeah, a reader reached out to
What?
say the same thing, that Hyatt took the one that was expiring sometime in 2022 and left them with the one that's expiring this month in their accounts. So yeah.
I just assumed when you told the story about the category 1 to 7 cert being used, that they picked it because it expired sooner than the 1 to 4, and that at least would have some logic behind it. But it sounds like it's
not even necessarily that way. Yeah, I don't know. And when I ran into this situation, I was concerned that it was going to take my 1 to 7. So I proactively, before I made the reservation, reached out to the concierge on Twitter, the Hyatt concierge. We've talked about the Hyatt concierge on Twitter lots of times and how good they are, how they're able to take care of things and handle things. And so I explained I didn't want the 1 to 7 taken away. And they said, just go ahead and make the reservation, give them the confirmation number, and they'd make sure that it was done right. And of course I did. And they confirmed that Hyatt.com did indeed take my category 1 to 7, but they were able to replace it with one of my 1 to 4s because I did that before this day, right after making the reservation. So you can get that fixed. You could proactively reach out to Hyatt, but probably the easiest solution would be just to make a category 7 reservation far out with your 1 to 7. That's not going to help you though with those multiple expiration dates on various category 1 to 4 certs. So in that case, you'd probably have to either call or send a message to the concierge on Twitter.
Yep. All right. Good tip. Crazy Hyatt stuff.
So then let's talk about Mattress Running the Numbers and get ourselves right back into Hyatt. So Greg, what's going on for Mattress Running the Numbers this week?
Yeah. We're still with Hyatt. So Hyatt sent out some targeted offers that no one in my family got, but we're going to talk about one of them because it would just be painful to try to talk through all three. But one of them is you're targeted to get 30,000 bonus points for staying 10 nights, or I should say for every 10 nights you stay up through January 14th. So you can max out with 150,000 bonus points altogether. And the question here is it worth mattress running? Is it worth booking Hyatt stays just to earn the 30,000 points for 10 nights? That averages to 3,000 points per night if you do exactly 10.
No, but close. No, I mean, not just for the points, but that's pretty good. I mean, if you get 3,000 points per night back, then your category 1 nights, which are 5,000 points per night, are suddenly quite a bit cheaper. And then if you happen to pick like one of those new Hyatts where you get 500 points or 500 points a night, I think, for staying at one of those, then it could start to become kind of interesting, right? I mean, it gets pretty darn close. You're getting 3,500 back each night. I mean, that seems awfully darn good in terms of a rebate if you have category 1 nights that you need to spend, or if you're hunting for status, right?
Right. And so I think that's exactly it. If you are, at, let's say 20 nights and you're trying to get to Globalist with 30 nights this year, normally it's 60, but this year it's 30. I think it would make a ton of sense to do those 10 nights. Then you're not only getting Globalist, you're also getting the 30-night milestone perk. So the category 1 to 4 free night certificate, for example, and you get Globalist status for, that'll carry you through all of next year and through, I think, February of the year after that. So
and most of the points back. So that 10 nights, if you were to spend them at a category 1, would cost you 50,000 points, and you get 30,000 points back, a category 1 to 4 certificate, and Globalist status. I mean, if you're at 20 nights and you got targeted for that, happy holidays to you. That was a nice little gift from Hyatt, right?
Right. Now, people and so like at each level of how many nights you've already done, you could do the math and say, well, what would I get by doing these extra 10? And it'd be awkward if you're at like 25, because then 10 nights is more than you need. And so I'm not really sure it would pay for itself. But let's just imagine everybody's at an even 10 nights. Once you hit 60 nights with Hyatt, every 10 nights gives you what the option of 10,000 points, or what a suite upgrade, I think it is.
Yes.
Is that right? And so would you Well, let's just go with the 10,000 points. So it would be worth spending 10 nights to get a total of 40,000 points back.
I mean, no, if you could, not if you'd be spending 50,000 points to get 40. So, I mean, unless you value the room, if you want to do like a little staycation and you got a category one nearby, then you want to use the pool or the gym or whatever it is, then yeah, it's a decent little rebate. But no, not just for the points. For the suite upgrade, on the other hand, yeah, it could be. I mean, because you'd be paying 50,000 points for a category one and getting 30,000 back. So you'd essentially be paying 20,000 points for a suite upgrade. Now, if you're going to use that on a one night suite upgrade, it may put you a little bit ahead at a top tier property, but it's not going to put you far ahead. So, for a one night stay, not great. But remember, those suite upgrades can be used for a stay of up to 7 nights. So if you're going to stay 7 nights at a category 6 Hyatt that ordinarily costs 25,000 points per night, so a standard suite is somewhere in the 30s. I can't remember how much the standard suite is. Do you remember? 25K property?
Thinking it's 42 or something like that, but I'm not sure.
That could be the case.
No, so, that's for 30,000 point nights.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
About 50% more. So that's why it's like, I don't know. I can't remember, but it's going to be in the 30s. So let's say it's going to cost you even an extra 6,000 points per night times 7 nights. That means, you're going to save 42,000 points at least. And it's probably more than that because I'm just doing quick math here and a guesstimate as far as how much the suite would cost you. Yeah, it's worth a net 20,000 points to get that suite upgrade for 7 nights. It just depends on where you're going to use it. If you're going to use it, how much you value a suite. I mean, I really do value a suite quite strongly now. Traveling with 2 kids, I want the extra space if I can get it. So I would definitely, I think I would definitely do that one. 20,000 points for a suite upgrade would be cool with me.
Yeah. So what it comes down to is, for most people, the answer is no, I wouldn't mattress run this, but there are definitely people in situations like being close to globalist status, like being, close to the next milestone reward, where it could definitely be worth it.
Oddly enough, though, if you're at 30 nights already, it wouldn't make sense, right? Because 40 nights, the 40 night milestone benefit isn't very good. If you're,
I can't remember what it is, but I remember that fact that it's not very good.
Yeah, it's either 5,000 points or $100 Hyatt gift card. So it wouldn't add enough on top of what you're getting from the rebate. If you're at 20 nights, totally makes sense to go to 30. If you're at 40 nights, totally makes sense to go to 50 and get yourself 2 suite upgrade awards. If you're at 50 nights, absolutely. Because you'll end up getting a category 1 to 7 and 2 more suite upgrades. It's just if you're at 30 nights that you don't want to do this promotion. If you're targeted. Funny.
Yeah. All right.
So, anyway, all right. So then that brings us to the main event.
Main event time. Our favorite Capital One Sweet Spot Awards. We're gonna alternate. I'm gonna go first, and then Nick's gonna go second, and then you could guess who's gonna go third. And we're gonna go through our favorites, and then we're gonna talk about what's missing. What do the other transferable currencies have that where we really like sweet spots there? Capital One doesn't provide it. So
when you said we're going to talk about what's missing, I was thinking you were going to say my Capital One points.
Yes, those are totally missing.
For Greg, they are. Yes.
Yeah. So this whole conversation's all academic to me.
Right. This is rubbing salt in the wound, talking about his favorite Capital One sweet spots.
It's my favorite theoretical Capital One sweet spots, and my top favorite theoretical Capital One sweet spot is transferring 1-to-1 to Wyndham so that you can book Vacasa vacation rentals. We've talked a lot about Vacasa vacation rentals and about how you can get a 1-bedroom vacation rental for 15,000 points per night or less if you also have a Wyndham earner card. And some of these properties that are advertised as 1-bedroom actually are actually huge. Like they're like houses with lofts that have separate beds in the loft. Sometimes they have multiple bathrooms and everything. And you could get seriously nice places with that award. And that's one nobody else, none of the other transferable currencies support transfers to Wyndham, I believe. So that's a really unique sweet spot for Capital One.
It sure is. A great sweet spot it is. So yeah, that's totally worthwhile. I agree with you. And by the way, it's worth mentioning for anybody who hasn't been following along on that, we did get a comment from a reader who booked a 4-bedroom Wyndham property, and it was like $1,700 a night was the cash rate, and they were able to book the 4-bedroom for 15,000 points per bedroom. They had the Wyndham earner card, so it was actually 13,500 points per bedroom. But the nice thing there is it confirmed the fact that our $350-ish cap is a per bedroom cap. So that means you could book some pretty nice places for not that many points.
You sure can. Yeah. I know we always talk about the 1-bedroom example, but there's certainly multi-bedroom examples where you could get incredible value with that as well.
There you go. All right. That's cool. So obviously, if I am going to talk about Capital One sweet spots, the first sweet spot I got to talk about is Turkish Miles and Smiles, because booking United flights with Turkish Miles and Smiles is an incredible value, particularly to the Aloha state. My favorite place to go if I have the time and chance, Hawaii, because it's only 7,500 miles one way in economy class, or 12.5 if you find the Unicorn business class, United Business First space to Hawaii, from anywhere in the United States on United. Obviously, you got to be able to find United saver availability that's available to partners. You got to deal with a lot of headaches booking with Turkish, because you can no longer book on the website. They're just missing the checkout button. And if you call, there's no telling what availability a phone agent is going to find. They may find the flights you want. They may not. They may see what you see online. They may not. You're just going to have to call again and again, or send an email to a whole bunch of ticket offices and hope that somebody is able to get it booked for you. So there's difficulty in booking it, but if you can get it booked, it is really hard to beat 7,500 miles each way anywhere in the United States. Alaska, Hawaii, small airports in the middle of nowhere. If United flies there, you might be able to get yourself a great deal.
Right. And Citi also supports one-to-one transfers to Turkish. They're the only other one that does one-to-one to Turkish. But Citi's transfers are not instant. I think Capital One is.
They are.
Am I remembering that right?
Yes, that is.
So that's a big
true.
advantage.
Yeah, a huge advantage. That makes it much easier. You can put awards on hold with Turkish and then call in to ticket it once you have the miles transferred. But having them instantly is really nice. I should also mention that the bonus on the Venture X, the 100,000 plus the points you'll get for the spend, because you got to spend $10,000 in order to get the welcome bonus, you'll end up with 120,000 points. That's enough for 10. Listen to that again. 10 round-trip economy class tickets in the United States, even to Hawaii. That is incredible. So I think that's really worth getting excited about. That's definitely my top Capital One Sweet Spot Awards.
So I'm just going to question your math there. So the round trip,
not enough for 10. That's not even enough for 9. In fact, it won't even get you 8. I did the math and totally multiplied 15 times 10 and got 115,000 instead of 150,000.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. Gosh darn it. All right. Greg, how many would it get you?
So you could get something less than 10.
Something less than 10. Darn it. Oh my goodness. FM fan has just left the show listening to somebody else's Miles and Points show for the rest of eternity. Gosh. Sorry about that. It was less than 10. 15,000.
You're a bit closer to 10.
8.
Vacasa one-night stays. 8. If you also have a Wyndham Earner card, but you're still not at 10 of those.
Not quite there. 8 round-trip economy classes, which is still amazing. It's still incredible. So
it is.
Forgive my math mistake for a moment there. You're talking amazing value on that welcome bonus.
Very good.
All right.
Okay.
Go, Greg. Take it away.
All right.
Talk about something else.
Yeah. Let's get into Cathay Pacific Asia Miles. They have all kinds of cool uses. And so one that we've talked about before is that they have a distance-based award chart, and it caps out at a certain distance. So if you're going really far, it doesn't get more expensive going, so for example, going from Chicago to Hong Kong, it's not more expensive to go from Chicago to Hong Kong to South Africa or to Australia. So that's a heck of a lot further, but because the distance band is already capped out, it's not costing more. So that's one piece of it, but it gets better. They average the cost based on what cabin you're in. So if going to South Africa through Hong Kong, you could fly first class to Hong Kong from Chicago, business class to South Africa, and the total cost will be less than the cost to fly just the first class to Hong Kong segment.
Incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You're going to pay even less to fly to Hong Kong in first class.
Now, for shorter trips, there's also tricks you can do, because they seem to measure the distance based on where you started and where you ended. So you could get a shorter distance, so a cheaper award flight by booking, from just a simple example, and this doesn't really get you a lot of savings, but a simple example, let's say you're going from New York to LA, and you have an onward flight to, I don't know, somewhere closer than LA, let's say Salt Lake City or something like that. That flight will calculate at a smaller distance than just the New York to LA flight. And so you could imagine what you could do with that.
There you leave it at that. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that is pretty fantastic. And for those people out there who are perhaps newer to the game and you're asking yourself, well, yeah, but why would I want to go to South Africa via Hong Kong? That's like the long way to go. Why would I fly from Chicago all the way to Hong Kong in order to get to South Africa? Because Cathay Pacific first class is pretty nice. It's one of those things where you're not going to get that with your money, with your cash, and it's going to be a fantastic experience, most likely, that, again, is going to be priced in cash out of most of our price ranges. So it's something you'd probably never have access to otherwise. It'd be a really enjoyable experience. So if you like that, if you like, good food and good wine and good service, you want it to last as long as you can.
Yeah. Also, whether you're going to South Africa or Australia, somewhere like that, getting more direct award flights can be really tricky, and often awards through Asia that are not quite on the way are still much easier to get, and especially these premium cabin awards. So,
true story.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you got next?
I got Avianca LifeMiles up next. So Avianca LifeMiles is maybe my favorite Star Alliance partner that isn't Turkish Airlines. So I like Star Alliance Airlines being based in New York State, flying out of New York City. There's just so many Star Alliance Airlines. So Avianca LifeMiles really appeals to me because they have some incredible sweet spots in their award chart. First, just within the United States domestically, if you can't deal with Turkish, if you stay within a single zone, the old zones, and I put quotation marks up for people watching on the podcast because they don't really publish this anymore and there's some variants, but basically if you stay on the East Coast of the U.S., not too far south, can't go all the way to Florida, but 7,500 points each way within that zone. Zone 2 reaches from Florida all the way up to like North Dakota. And so if you're anywhere within the middle of the U.S., again, 7,500 points each way in economy, 10 each way in business. And so that's a pretty good sweet spot. But then Avianca does the same kind of thing that Greg was talking about with their mixed cabin awards. So if you fly one segment in business or first class and another segment in a lower class, they're going to average out the distance you flew in each cabin and price it even less. So for instance, a business class award ticket to Europe officially by their award chart costs 63,000 miles one way. However, if you fly something like, let's say, New York to Dublin in business class, and then you fly from Dublin, let's say, to Istanbul in economy class, whether or not you make that second flight, it's going to cost you less. It'll cost you like just under 50,000 miles, potentially one way in business class to do something of that sort. So there are some great opportunities there for hacking the system, so to speak, with mixed cabin awards. And there are also some weird pricing anomalies that just don't make any sense, and we don't know why they price differently than the award chart suggests they should. But for instance, one of the New York airports to Lisbon, Portugal costs 35,000 miles one way in business class. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It won't price out differently if you try to do a mixed cabin thing. It's just, I can't remember if it's JFK or Newark. I always have to search and check. But one of those two to Lisbon's 35K, or an economy class, 16,500, which is less than the award chart price from New York to Zurich. Again, no idea why. There's not really a good reason for it, but there are some odd routes like that. So we've written posts about the secret LifeMiles award chart and do they play favorites, because they've got lots of different pricing anomalies like that, not only to Europe, but in other parts of the world too.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. That's a great one. All right. I'm going off to another cheap way to get to Europe in business class, which is Iberia. Now, Iberia is not a Capital One transfer partner, strangely, but British Airways is. So in this case, what you need to do is transfer from Capital One to British Airways, and then connect your British Airways account to your Iberia account, make sure all of your personal details are exactly the same or this won't work. Then you can move your British Airways Avios, which is what they call their points, to Iberia Avios. And then you could book Iberia itself, fly Iberia to Europe in business class for as little as 34,000 points one way. That's for off peak, and then it goes up for peak, and it also depends where you're flying from as to what the starting price is. But they have just amazing prices for their own flights.
Right. And much more reasonable fuel surcharges. So it's not like British Airways. You pay a little bit more than you would with some programs, but far less than British Airways. You're talking about, I don't know, $250, $300 round trip on a business class award to Europe. So much more reasonable there.
Right. British Airways, if you're talking round trip business class, actually flying on British Airways, regardless of what miles you're using to book it, you're talking probably over $1,000 in surcharges that you have to pay. And so suddenly this free trip doesn't feel even close to free.
Right. So you want to move those over to Iberia first and fly Iberia.
Right.
All right. Air Canada is up next. Air Canada Aeroplan, another great transfer partner, and something that now partners with both Amex and Chase also. So there are other ways to gather these points. So if you're looking to be able to put together an award, you're not only limited to Capital One on this one. Of course, the sweet spot is not only limited to Capital One. But why is Aeroplan such a good deal? Aeroplan did change their award chart a lot. So the pricing in many instances has gone up pretty significantly from where it used to. However, they have these huge award zones. So you can fly now on a business class award from anywhere in the United States to as far as like India or Africa for a maximum of 100,000 miles in business class one way, and do a stopover on the way for 5,000 miles more. Now, you may be able to fly just to Europe for as low as 60,000 miles in business class, like New York to most of Western Europe. Actually west of Italy or so, is going to be about 60,000 miles one way in business class. But like I said, that Atlantic zone that Europe is part of, it stretches all the way to India and all the way down through South Africa. So you could plan a trip to some far-flung place in that zone and stop over in Europe on your way, because lots of Star Alliance carriers fly via Europe. No fuel surcharges on Air Canada anymore, or on any of their partners on their award tickets. So you won't pay fuel surcharges even if you fly Lufthansa or whatever else. So you got lots of connectivity. So for 5,000 miles, adding a stopover is a great deal. Also, lap infants are only 2,500 miles on an award ticket. So, and I believe that counts round trip or one way. It'll be 2,500. So if you book a round trip, I think you'll even save a little bit more. That's a terrific deal. A lot of programs charge 10% of the adult revenue fare. So only paying 2,500 miles for a lap infant ticket is a terrific deal if you've got young kids. Air Canada, again, love the fact that there's no more fuel surcharges. Love the 5,000 mile stopover. Makes for some awesome awards. And also, Air Canada, by the way, partners with Etihad now too. So you can get some great options there, flying long haul business class potentially.
Yeah. Also, even though Air Canada's prices might be a bit more than American Airlines, who's another partner of Etihad, it's so much easier to book Etihad with Air Canada miles. First of all, Air Canada lets you mix partners. So you could fly, let's say, United to get to the airport that Etihad flies from, that you're then going to take Etihad to where you're going, which you couldn't do with American Airlines. But you also can book it online, and American Airlines, for whatever reason, at least flights from or to America are not bookable online, and not all agents, even foreign agents, when you call different offices, are able to book them or even see those awards anyway. So it's a huge hassle. So yeah, I like Air Canada a lot for that. Mm-hmm. Okay. My next favorite is Air France. So Air France is in common with all the big transferable currencies. Everyone loves Air France and lets you transfer one-to-one to them. And that's a good thing because they've got some nice sweet spots. For one, their business class award flights to Europe are reasonable. So they often come in around 55,000 points one way with fuel surcharges, but they're usually not horrible. And Israel now is back in Europe. So for years, we and other blogs way before we did have talked about how Air France priced Israel as if it was part of Europe, and so it was much cheaper than flying elsewhere in the Middle East. And that went away briefly, or it seemed to go away briefly. Yeah. So a lot of people reported that, but Nick recently found that Israel's back in Europe.
Back in Europe. And it's in writing. They have it on the website that's part of the definition of Europe. Israel and Morocco, it's some definition of Europe that's not even theirs. They're following some airline, international standard for Europe, I guess. So, but that's a great deal because it means A, it costs less than flying to most other places in the Middle East, and B, it costs less to get to Israel than it does with basically any other program, because every other program classifies that as a different region from Europe. So it costs more miles usually. So great deal if you're looking to do that.
Right. And then Air France also has their monthly promo rewards, where if you're lucky, there'll be a discount on award flights from where you want to fly from and to. And sometimes those are amazing. Like we've seen economy to Europe for around like 10,000 points. And it's often less than what's advertised. So the promo rewards website might say, that it's discounted to, let's say, 16,000 miles one way between Europe and the US. But when you go to actually book it, depending on what your origin and destination is, it could be cheaper. And we often see it cheaper. So that's pretty cool right there.
Great. All right. And then I'm going to combine two actually for my last one. So Emirates and Etihad, I'm going to put both of them in here. Emirates, for flights to Europe, because 90,000 miles round trip in business class is a terrific price for business class to Europe, particularly if you're able to fly on the Emirates A380, which they have flown at various points, I think, to both Milan and to Athens. So these are both from New York. One's from JFK and the other one's from Newark. I think it's Newark to Athens and JFK to Milan, if I remember correctly. So 90,000 miles round trip in business class. Like I said, on the A380 is nice because then you get the bar in the back. So, you can hang out and have a drink, eat some food in a more normal world, of course, obviously. I don't know what the situation is like exactly during the pandemic, but fun way to fly to Europe. And again, great price. Emirates eliminated most of their fuel surcharges, so it does still cost a little bit, but it's like $96 round trip or something like that. It's totally reasonable for what you got. And then actually first class also is a good deal, and I can't remember off the top of my head, and I meant to look it up and I forgot, but first class is also a very reasonable deal round trip, much better than what most other airlines will charge you, and you get the blingy Emirates first class experience to Europe. So it's more miles if you want to go to other places. It starts to become less of a value depending on how far you want to travel on Emirates. But from New York to Europe, great deal there. Also, I said I'm going to package a second one in here because we didn't put Etihad on the list, and we should have, because Etihad is another great strength for Capital One here. And what I also was thinking of when you were talking a second ago is that we should have kicked this all off by saying Capital One transfers to all these 1-to-1 now. We reported that a while back, and you might have ignored it because you were like, oh, Capital One, I don't care about Capital One. But now you should, because they transfer 1-to-1 to all of the airline programs except for EVA. So everything we've talked about today, it's all 1-to-1 transfers from Capital One. So, and Etihad, 44,000 miles one way from the U.S. to Casablanca. So if you want to fly Royal Air Maroc, it'll cost you 44,000 miles one way. Royal Air Maroc flies from New York, Washington, D.C., Miami, and I think Boston to Casablanca. So that's a great deal in business class. Same price for Brussels Airlines from New York to Brussels. So again, 44,000 miles one way in business class, potentially great deals. There's some other sweet spots using Etihad miles to fly American Airlines for fewer miles than American Airlines will charge you. So great sweet spot to have there too. Capital One is just full of awesome sweet spots now, aren't they?
Right. And if I remember right, I think Etihad is more unique to them, whereas Emirates, all the transferable currencies transfer to Emirates just like they do to Air France. Etihad, I can't remember who else has Etihad.
Amex and Citi, I think both have Etihad. Chase does not.
They do. Okay, so Chase is the one that doesn't. Got it.
Yep. But so, I mean, still very good to have that transfer capability. So I mean, I think it shows. I think today's discussion shows that Capital One is a strong program, right? I mean, there's a heck of a lot of sweet spots in there.
There sure are. So, but enough fawning over Capital One.
So what's missing? What are we missing?
Let's now talk about what are the sweet spots that, if all we had was Capital One points, what would we be missing? What would
we call these the sour spots?
Sour spots, yes. Let's get into the sour spots. So my number one sour spot is ANA. So American Express has transfers 1-to-1 to ANA. And they have a number of great sweet spots, but I'm going to touch on one in particular, which is round the world awards in business class for a very reasonable amount. I mean, it's possible to book them for as few as 115,000 miles. And I was about to say round trip, but round the world.
Around the world. 8 stops, right? I mean, 8 cities class. You could visit in business class. That's amazing.
Yep. And, more realistically, you're probably going to be paying about 145,000 or 170 something. But regardless of all that, most programs would charge that much for like a round trip to Europe, except some of these sweet spots we mentioned before. And you're talking about going around the world and all kinds of carriers and all that. It's incredible. I'm going to mention one more ANA thing, just because Nick was talking before about how you could use Air Canada to go 100,000 miles to go one way to South Africa as an example, and add 5,000 points to get a stopover. Well, with ANA, you could go to South Africa round trip in business class for 104,000 miles and include a stopover and that round trip award for free. So for 1,000 fewer points, you've got round trip and still do the stopover in one direction. So it's pretty amazing. It does not. So where Air Canada has the advantage, and also Avianca has the advantage, is they do not pass along fuel surcharges imposed by carriers. ANA does, and that can bite you if you're not careful. Like I was looking up some awards the other day, and I think it was like Egypt Air was showing up as available, which I wouldn't want to fly anyway, based on recent reviews I've read. But the point is, it was causing like over $1,000 in fuel surcharges to the trip. This wasn't even around the world or anything like that. So that's the downside, but still it's an incredible value from ANA.
It really is. And there's a whole bunch of ANA values. I mean, from 75,000 miles round trip business class to Tokyo to Japan in general, 88,000 round trip to Europe. I mean, there's so many great sweet spots.
Yes.
ANA is an awesome Amex transfer partner. Speaking of ANA, another sour spot for Capital One is that they're missing Virgin Atlantic. Everybody else transfers to Virgin Atlantic. I don't understand why Capital One doesn't. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't worked that out yet. At the same time, they keep adding things here and there. So I keep being hopeful that one of these days we're going to get an email from them.
I absolutely predict that's coming soon. I'd be very surprised if it's not.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Virgin Atlantic sweet spot?
Well, I think that the whether or not it's my favorite, the best Virgin Atlantic sweet spot is ANA first class, because you can fly first class, and we're talking like a $10,000 ticket from the East Coast of the United States to Japan for 60,000 miles in first class one way. From the West Coast, it's only 55,000. And again, these are tickets ANA charges $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 each way for. So this is an amazing value.
Yes. Same pricing, by the way, from London to Japan for those who are not going from or to the U.S. 60,000 one way. Incredible.
Crazy. Unbelievable. So that terrific values to be had there. So bummer that we don't have Virgin Atlantic, but that's not the only thing that's missing with the lack of Virgin Atlantic, right?
Right. One of the things I really love that they have is nonstop flights on Delta to Europe. 50,000 miles one way in Delta One. So, that's just a really sweet award. They also have some good business class prices for flying Air France or KLM as well, but those become more expensive as you leave from like the West Coast of the US, whereas the Delta one is just flat 50,000 points, period.
Yeah. And that's a great deal. Awesome to be able to have that. So bummer that they're missing that. Of course, Capital One is missing Chase's key strength, which is Hyatt. You don't have access to Hyatt. And so that's a big bummer because as we talked about today and lots of other times, Hyatt's got some fantastic values on their award chart. They still have an award chart, unlike most other programs, soon anyway. So they have an award chart, great deals on the Hyatt award chart, awesome deal with Chase Ultimate Rewards points. And unfortunately, Capital One does not transfer to Hyatt and probably never will.
That's right. That it's very unlikely that'll ever happen. Finally, my last favorite, and it's a new favorite, is that Citi allows transfers to choice privileges 1 to 2. You get twice as many choice points as the thank you points you started with, and that leads to some incredible values. And I've written about values booking preferred hotels with choice. It's heck of an ordeal trying to book those things, but it's possible, and you could get incredible value on some really, really high-end properties. Choice has their Ascend properties that can be really nice as well, and just fantastic value. Now, all that said, we've been waiting for Capital One to introduce transfers to choice. They announced that quite a while ago. They said it would be 1-to-1 at the time. But that was also at the time when they said other airline transfers would be less than 1-to-1. So maybe they'll eventually get it, and maybe it'll be 1-to-2 as well.
Maybe, possibly. I'm getting more and more doubtful that they're ever going to get choice because, I mean, it was supposed to happen in 2021. And I mean, 2021 is almost gone and they haven't gotten it yet. And, I mentioned it in an email at some point and totally they just let that drop and didn't respond to that part. It wasn't like the key part of the email. I don't remember the details exactly, but I had written to their PR person and asked a question that had something to do with the choice transfers, and they totally didn't pick up what I was putting down there at all. They didn't respond on choice. So I don't know if that was bad news, like choice isn't going to happen, or just they aren't ready yet, or what the deal is,
or maybe they were close to a deal and then Citi swooped in and gave choice a better offer.
Yeah, I don't know. Something funny there. So maybe they'll get it, but probably not 1-to-2. We can hope. So I don't know though. But at the same time, I kind of feel like probably Capital One's best strategy at this point is to keep it simple. 1-to-1 transfers. 1-to-1 transfers across the board.
I mean,
right?
but they still have 2-to-1 on
core live limit
core
limits. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
So they could balance it out with a 1-to-2 to choice.
They could.
Or do 1-to-2 to Hyatt if you really want to make it
right. You want everybody to write about your cards all the time. Capital One. That's the way to do it.
I mean, I totally would be really upset about having lost my Capital One card.
I bet you would. I bet you better be careful what you wish for. Keep wishing for that, Greg. I'll take it.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, so we have a quick question, I guess. So we're going to do a quick question of the week here and then sign off for today. So question of the week, very simple, actually. So I think you'll be able to answer this quickly. Somebody in our Frequent Miler Insiders asked a question. They said that their husband applied for the Chase Inc. Business Preferred. And of course, I just lost it when I had it up here. There we go. Applied for a Chase Inc. card, has legitimate business for years, excellent credit. Applied Monday night because there are some big expenses coming up this week that'll help him spend the $15,000. I assumed he'd get automatically approved, but he received the message that they'll be in touch. Should he call and check in? And if so, what to say? I need the card pretty quickly to pay these bills to meet the spending requirement. So what do you think? I know the conventional wisdom has been not to call. In that situation, though, what would you advise?
Yeah. So the conventional wisdom is don't call because there's still a chance of a automatic approval, just not an instant automatic approval if you wait. But if you need the card quickly, I don't really think there's danger in calling and asking for an immediate decision. And if you're lucky, you'll get an agent who is gonna work to get that approved. And that is not unusual at all to happen.
Right. And especially if you've got a long established business and, good credit and income and all the rest of that, and you can talk about your revenue and whatever else, if that's easy for you, then there's probably not that much harm in calling in. I think most people that are of the don't call kind of, philosophy are of that philosophy because they have a new business or a very small business and they're not necessarily prepared to answer all the questions about it. And so they'd rather just wait and see if they get automatically approved. But if you're in a situation where you got a business for 20 or 30 years and you know your numbers and everything else, then I don't think there's much harm in calling and talking to somebody. So
right. I mean, anecdotally, it's been a while, but last time I called in a situation like that, the agent just had the simplest little question. I can't remember what it was, but it was something like, what's your business phone number so that I can, record that as your preference. And then they're like, okay, you're approved. So, it can be that easy. It can
be. Right. And I had a non-credit card situation sort of like that just yesterday where I got blocked for a fraud alert on something and I had to call in and verify myself. And I was wondering what they were going to ask me and blah, blah, blah. And I called in and they asked me to verify my name and my phone number. And that was it. They were like, and you made the purchase? And I was like, yep. And they were like, okay, good to go.
Right. Right.
I was
Same kind of thing. Yep.
Okay. That was really easy. I didn't have to do anything. So don't be afraid of making the call now and then.
No.
All right. Unfortunately, we are out of time for today, so we got to let you go. I want to thank you guys very much for being out there with us today. We always enjoy having you here. If you'd like to get on our email list so you can read more about what we're talking about in your inbox each day or each week, go to frequentmiler.com/subscribe. Again, that's frequentmiler.com/subscribe to join our email list. Follow us on social media. Join our Frequent Miler Insiders Facebook group. We'll see you on Instagram and Twitter and all those places as well. Thank you very much, and we'll be back again next week.
Bye, everybody.